Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from rSpace. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me multiple times, so I reverse cheated and kicked her out. It's hard to even know where to begin. I, 31 male, got to experience D-Day number 3 about a month ago thanks to my 28 female ex-girlfriend. We met through work in college. A random hookup at a house party led to me asking her out on a date. It turns out she had a boyfriend, so no date. Cool, I'm not trying to be that guy. A month later, she reconsiders even though she still has a boyfriend. The date goes well. She breaks it off with a boyfriend and we start dating. Turns out she had been cheating on him the whole year with random guys because he cheated on her previously and assaulted her once. The thought that she'd never do that to me was strong in my mind at the time. How wrong I was. After the honeymoon love bomb phase, intimacy between us dried up despite my best efforts. Over the next 2 years, the problem persisted even as we grew closer emotionally. She started a new job at a different restaurant, and after a while started to become more selfish, irritated, and distant towards me. Until one day, she says she doesn't love me anymore and that there's someone else. That someone else was a recovered heroin addict 10 years older than her. But they just got each other, you know? I was wrecked by this naturally. It took me 2 months just to finally start working on myself and not feel as much pain waking up from the nightly dreams I had of her. 3 months after the breakup, she comes back to me saying she's sorry and she was wrong and that she knows that she truly loves me. I felt vindicated. I felt elated to know that she finally realized my worth and the worth of our relationship. It took a couple of weeks to find out that he had purposely gotten her pregnant and she had aborted because she wasn't ready to have kids. Then he told his parents and they tried to convince her to keep the baby. Over the next 2 years, we enjoyed life together somehow. She was still pretty selfish, but overall, she had improved. I went back to school for a second degree. We moved in together, and she didn't know what to do with herself when I wasn't around. She ended up drinking a bottle of wine a night for a couple of months. She was afraid to leave the house without me. She wore large baggy clothes so that she couldn't be hit on in public. She reached out to old friends from an old job to build her social circle back up. Eventually, she becomes friends with a busboy from her old job. He's in a band and he was pretty chill. She says I have nothing to worry about. Mind you, during this time, our sex life consisted of my initiating, and if successful, always started crying when I would start to touch her. Assault trauma. Eventually, something felt off. I took her phone out of her hand and demanded to see the texts between them. Of course, this was D-Day number 2. They had slept together twice while I was at work. I tell her to get out and take all her stuff that night. She's crying on the phone with the affair partner in the bathroom to see if she can stay there. Against my better judgment, I tell her to stay. I just wanted to understand why. I don't know is the only answer I got. Eventually, she says she thinks there is something wrong with her. I tell her she definitely needs therapy, and that if she actually wants to change, we can work through it together. Naturally, my friends and family think this is a terrible idea. She seemingly goes the whole 9 yards. Therapy, giving me all the details, apologies, holding me while I cry uncontrollably at night, letting me know where she is at all times, cutting contact with the affair partner. We both go to individual counseling for the next 2 years. Her trauma supposedly comes from how her mother was treated as a child or teen. She was told it was wrong to feel good during sex, and she shouldn't be having it as a teen, and she hadn't gotten over that. I spent the next 2 years patiently trying to help her unlearn these messages, but a part of me just couldn't understand why or how you could do that to someone you love. I felt the only way to know for sure was to experience it myself. I ended up having the opportunity to reverse cheat at the time, and I shamefully took advantage of the opportunity. I felt disgusted with myself. I couldn't look at or talk to my affair partner. I cut off contact with her that night and never talked to her again, but I never told my girlfriend. It reinforced the feeling that I wanted to make my relationship work and that I could help her through the trauma. For the next 2 years, our life continued mostly as it always had. We had a great relationship outside the bedroom. We communicated better about our wants and needs. I checked in every 2 weeks to make sure she was happy and getting what she needed from me. Meanwhile, she had burned every friendship she had had, and I was the only one in her life aside from her family. We started talking about looking at rings and getting married. About 6 months ago, COVID finally slowed down and she started going to the gym with me, something I've always encouraged her to try while telling her how beautiful and amazing she already is. She wants a physical trainer now to show her what to do, even though she can't afford it. They, all females, taught her some things, but they were all flaky. After a couple of weeks, she tries out a different gym and prefers it to the one that I go to. She makes friends with the female manager there, and I'm overjoyed she has a friend to talk to. She gets talked into a contract for 4 physical trainer sessions a month for 4 months, and gets passed around to different ones each week. She starts to spend less and less time at home. Her only focus is working out and eating healthier. She starts talking about entering into swimsuit competitions and gets wishy-washy about planning a trip to look at rings. We go on a vacation with family and friends, and she doesn't even sleep in the same bed as me. Strange, but there were a lot more beds than people, so I didn't overthink it. She starts going out with her friends from work and her new friend from the gym, even though she felt too sick the day before to go on the date night I had planned out the night before. The following day, I try to check in with her due to all the distance I had been feeling. She flat out tells me that she doesn't think she is sexually attracted to me anymore. I ask how she knows this. She says she went and met up with her personal trainer last night, not her friend, and they did some things, but didn't have sex, and that's how she knew she wasn't attracted to me anymore. She tells me she's been feeling this way for a while now, and she thought she had made it obvious. I had promised myself after D-Day number 2, and I made it abundantly clear to her that if she did cheat again, that we would be over for good, even if it was after kids and marriage. I told her she has a week to get her stuff out of our place, and I want to stay with a friend. I dodged a bullet, I know. I just wish I could get those 4 years back. I wish she wasn't so broken. I wish I could have healed her childhood wounds and grown old together with the mask of the person I thought I knew. I wish I could understand how you can disrespect someone who has been there for you like that for so many years. Let's get a reaction from the community. Mysterious Teaching 30 says, I really hate to say this, but the whole thing started out with cheating on her previous boyfriend. And not to beat a dead horse, but you can't start a real relationship by cheating. Over and over again, it's been proven. Then, you cheated on her to cheat on the cheater? You brought yourself down to her level and started playing her game. You should be ashamed of yourself. Next time, just break up and find someone you want to be with who also wants to be with you. Now you get to wear the label of philanderer for the rest of your life. Honestly, the whole thing reads like a terrible episode of Jersey Shore. I hope you learned something. Relationships started by dishonesty and infidelity will always implode, especially when it's based upon lust. Good luck. The OP responds, You are 100% correct. I had never entered into a relationship by way of cheating before. I was young at the time, had not done any research, or had any understanding of how doomed to failure the relationship was just by the way it started. I thought I was special, the one, not just another chump. Yes, I brought myself down to her level. Yes, I am ashamed of myself for doing what I did. I regret it every single day. I thought it was the only way to truly understand why cheating could be so appealing. It just made me feel subhuman. I should have left so many times. There's definitely some codependency at play. I plan to work through it in therapy. The next comment comes from Dragon Master 97. I have read this so many times now, I would like victims to comment and help me understand if that is even possible. You slept with this woman as a random hookup during a college party. Then you find out she has a boyfriend. She rolls back around after a bit and you find out she has hooked up a bunch on her boyfriend. But you decide to give a relationship a try and even state she would never do that to you. This is what I need help with. How do you come to the conclusion that she would not do to you exactly what she just did to her previous boyfriend? For that matter, how does anyone, male or female, please help me out here, come to the conclusion that the person you just cheated with would not cheat on you? Is it horrible self-esteem? Is it massive self-esteem and you believe that since you are God's gift that they would never cheat on you? I cannot understand this dynamic, and if any of you that have lived this drama and had it played out in your life could explain it to me, I would really appreciate it. I realize that not all situations are the same, and there could be multiple reasons why you think you would not be a victim when you were the cheater in the first place, but I genuinely would like to understand this dynamic because it is extremely common. The OP tries to respond with some explanations. I was young and naive in the first instance. I did not know anything about the other instances of her cheating on her past boyfriend until 6 to 9 months into our relationship. I had never been with someone that had cheated before. I just didn't know what I was getting myself into. Yes, I was dumb enough to think that it wouldn't happen to me. I thought that the cheating was due to the fact that her then boyfriend had raped her, which did line up with the literature I later found. Again, I knew nothing about how deep-rooted her trauma was. I did have pretty high self-esteem at the time. Objectively, I had a lot more going for me at the time than her boyfriend. I stupidly thought all these things and that we would ride off into the sunset together. I was in the affair fog, I just didn't know what that was at the time. It's so easy to make justifications and excuses when you're so wrapped up in the moment. I just overlooked one red flag after the next until I was colorblind and couldn't see them at all. The next comment comes from Arzak. I think everyone's being a bit harsh. It's hard to see signs when you're in love. Your brain tries to actively hide them from you. Wishing you the best. The OP responds again. Thank you for this. I've been lurking here for the past couple of weeks. I feel like I've read stories similar to mine, minus the cheating on my part, of people accepting their partner back and trying to work it out. These people seem to get much less harsh responses. I wrote this out to try and deal with the pain and grief I have over the end of this relationship. I get it. I'm a crappy person for being an affair partner to start with. I should have known the same thing would happen to me. I'm a crappy person for revenge cheating 6 years later. I had many opportunities early on in the relationship to cheat, and I never took them. My roommate even had a girl sneak into my bed while I was sleeping. I woke up to this random girl grinding on top of me asking if I was single. I told her I had a girlfriend and to get off. After being left for someone else and then cheated on again, I just wanted to understand why cheating could ever be so appealing. Why would someone already in a relationship could or would do that? I got my answer, but I hated myself for it.